I can always go inside if needed. So yeah, so we encourage you to go look at our repository. We do given a lot of good tidbits. So we hope that you will enjoy it and enjoy this discussion. So today, Christina and we've been talking about, some of the content we wanted to bring, and we saw this article that was out of Clean Eating Magazine, which talked about how to eat, and in order to control your anxiety. And I think we talk about anxiety a lot, even through the COVID season, and even before that, dealing with the people that we deal with, these busy professionals who are serious go-getters in their work life and their family life, and they're trying to do it all. I think that anxiety could bubble up there somewhere.
100%.
And,
I think anxiety has spiked, obviously, during COVID, or I don't know what this time is now. We're like 18 months in, but I think over that time, anxiety has spiked. And, I think for our primary, the people that we work with women, it's definitely something where women are seeing it more, and more, the prevalence is higher for women for that, for them to have anxiety, right? And we're just trying to figure out how to manage it, how to manage our lives in general. And so it's an overall thing. It's not just about the eating or the working out. Like, there's so much more that goes into this that involves, that mental health.
Yeah. And, first and foremost, we believe in therapy. So, if you find yourself dealing with anxiety, or have been diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, the American Psychiatric Association has categorized anxiety disorders: general anxiety, there's obsessive compulsive disorder, we talk about it, OCD, panic disorder, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and then there's just general social anxiety disorder. So if you're falling into those categories, we encourage you to first seek therapy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, to help support you as you move forward. But we also want to talk about some of the foods that are going to help you, support the management of anxiety. And so first and foremost, we have foods high in, there's two omega fatty acids. It's EPA and DHA. And, those foods really have a positive effect on brain activity. And so, these are some of the foods that you may want to consider. They have sort of this calming effect. And, we can, they're in foods like salmon, mackerel, sardines, trout, anchovies, and there are many other foods, and we can put some links to some of the foods that you can find for each one of these foods. But that's number one.
Yeah. And of course, if you're not, some people aren't consuming fish, there are other supplements and things that you can use instead of having the animal products.
Yeah, and so the second one they're saying is foods high in magnesium. And, generally magnesium plays a role in regulating the neurotransmitters that send messages to your brain and body. And you can get magnesium from avocados, beans, leafy greens, whole grains, nuts, and seeds. So there's a lot of options there to, supplement your magnesium intake.
Yeah. And I actually used, it's called Calm. I guess not necessarily promoting a product per se, but there's a product that I use at night called Calm. I just mix it in with my water. It's a nice magnesium product. And it helps with sleeping, because obviously we know how sleeping impacts, just us overall. So it helps obviously with anxiety, and obviously kind of calming you in the evening hours.
Absolutely. The next thing they talk about are these antioxidant rich foods, and we hear a lot about that. Really lowering your antioxidant state. And so these are foods like cherry juice, apples, prunes. I mean, your basic fruits and vegetables, walnuts, pecans, leafy greens, artichokes, broccoli, turmeric, ginger, and beans. Like these are natural sources that you can take in, and will also could contribute to the management of your anxiety and your
Mm-hmm.
mood. Um, so those are one of and these are foods that I definitely live by this. Even myself being a person that manages her anxiety levels and has been doing that very well over the
Mm-hmm.
years. I'm very mindful about the foods that I take in because
Yeah.
I know that what goes in is going to be reflected in like my mindset. If I'm eating junk all the time, my mind is going to be, I'm going to be sluggish. I'm going
Right.
to feel like, and then there you get tired and you start trying to eat foods that try to keep you awake. And it's a cycle, right?
It's a bad cycle, and I think we'll talk about that in a bit. But I think a lot of times people don't understand that food and mood are directly connected, and so we try to feed ourselves or feed our mood with like sugar and things to like bring us up, but we don't really understand that while it's like bringing us up for that moment, it's going to bring us down so quickly after that. So if we start to make a shift in the way that we consume things, and we consume like the things that we're talking about, your just nutrient dense foods, you'll start to see the energy that you're looking for without going after. So I love coffee, but like if anyone knows me personally, my energy levels are just always up. I think sometimes I have a coffee just like for taste purposes, but like there are so many other things that I enjoy that just kind of contribute to the overall mood, and not relying on coffee or a pancake, a sugary pancake, or sugary foods to give me the energy that I need, because I know at the end of the day it's not going to sustain me. It might give me that spike for the moment, but you're crashing shortly after.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I want to touch on the caffeine because this is like a slippery slope, right?
It
Especially
is.
if you are dealing with anxiety, like caffeine is just a slippery slope, and you need to learn how to manage your intake and
Mm-hmm.
your body. So the last two items they suggested as foods to help manage your anxiety levels are pre and probiotic rich foods. So those are things like yogurt, sauerkraut, kimchi. We hear all of these products out there that talk about our pre and probiotic state, and so these are some of the foods that will help you manage. And then the last one is green or chamomile tea.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, green tea has
Caffeine.
it has a lower level of caffeine, but it does have caffeine, so you still need to be mindful. But a good old chamomile tea, relaxing,
Calming
yeah,
effects.
that calming effect. And so these are things to consider incorporating into your regular nutritional diet. So let's go to the things that they say to avoid. And
Yep.
number one on the list is caffeine.
Yep.
Too much caffeine. So, it triggers.
It's a
It's
stimulant, right? It like
not
it stimulizes
a
you.
real thing. Yeah. So, like, reducing or avoiding caffeine,
Mm-hmm.
especially, if you know that you have been diagnosed with these issues, or even if you're listening to your body and you feel like after a cup of coffee you feel overstimulated and you don't know what to do with that energy,
Right.
that is caffeine induced anxiety.
Yeah, it
It,
can agitate you.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a sign. That's your body saying, I don't need it. You don't need it. So some of us are like addicted to it, or it's just like we're on autopilot and we just go and drink the caffeine and that's done. But you have to listen to your body, because these things can trigger some of the things you're trying to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to decide what's more important, your mental health and sanity. Because at the
Right.
end of the day, like, you'll survive. We went through a list of like nutrient dense foods that can give you um, that similar, if not more, energy.
Mm-hmm.
And so leaning more on those things and reducing the dependence on caffeine is definitely, going to help you manage your anxiety.
Yeah. It's like one of the foods is causing you this agitation. So you have energy, but you're agitated, where the other foods are giving you the energy, but they're not giving you that agitation and anxiety. So it's
Right.
giving you the energy that you desire, but not that anxiety and that what's almost like a stress inducing food.
Right. Yep. Um, the next one to avoid, alcohol. How about that?
It's
So,
always on somebody's list.
right. So the thing is alcohol could have a calming effect,
Mm-hmm.
but it can also mess with your serotonin levels. So that means it's going to mess with your sleep.
Sleep. Yeah.
And then what happens when you don't get sleep? It's going to trigger
Yep.
anxiety back in. So being mindful of how much alcohol you drink. When you
Mm-hmm.
drink alcohol, maybe you don't drink alcohol right before you go to bed. You give yourself time to like get hydrated and kind of flush some of that out of your system before
Right.
you lie down. I can attest to alcohol interrupting sleep.
Sleep. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. For
yeah,
sure.
and these are the things that we talk about to like create a healthier lifestyle. Like I have to make a choice. It doesn't mean that I can't drink, but I have to make a choice. Like, do I want to? And maybe this is a question you ask yourself: is do I want to continue to feel bad, or do I want to like have some balance and maintain a healthier lifestyle and
Right.
feel so damn good in the morning that like it's like it's such an amazing feeling to be able to like not be dependent on these things and feel alive and healthy.
Right. 100%.
The other thing they talked about are trans fats. So, these are, you hear about trans fats a lot, like the packaged baked goods, your
I don't
margarine,
think a lot of people
your,
know about trans fats, though. I don't think that people are like, you know, shopping and being like, "Oh, is there trans fats in it?" No,
yeah,
I think that that may be a word that we hear a lot, but some people don't really know what it means. I think that even just fat in general, people get confused about. So but it is that in that packaged food, those are the things that we need to avoid.
yeah,
They're disruptors in general.
absolutely. So, yeah, so let's talk about that. So we talk where are your trans fats? So here's some examples: the packaged baked foods, the margarine, the shortenings, the
Fake food.
microwave popcorn, your fried fast foods, non-dairy creamers, your refrigerated doughs and biscuits. Those all they contain like um, trans fats. And if you
Hmm.
see it says partially hydrogenated oil, that's an indication that it contains trans fats.
Sure.
And these fatty acids have been linked to anxiety and depression. So, if you're picking up that fried chicken and you're doing it every day, and some of you may not even realize like how this food is so connected to how you're feeling, because
No
you're
clue.
not willing to admit to yourself how you actually feel. And when you look yourself in the mirror and you say, okay, yeah, non-dairy creamer, yeah, you have to read that label. It's important to read the label. So, um, we won't say any brands, but I will say read the label,
Yeah.
because it will tell you what those ingredients are on the back. And
Yeah.
it's not all Robret, but there is
Oh, I
particular
missed
brands
it.
like these non-dairy artificial creamers that we definitely have to stay away from. And and we're talking specifically about like if you're managing we're talking specifically to the population that is managing anxiety. Now, according to um, the American Psychiatric Association, the rate of adults that suffer from anxiety has increased
Mm-hmm.
from 11%, 1 in 10, to now 25%, 1 in 4 in the last 3 years. So 1 in 4 people are experiencing or dealing with some sort of anxiety. And so it's important to know these facts and figures so that you can really start to be honest with yourself and identify, how you're feeling and whether you need to start taking some of these methods into consideration. I think we got to bring Christina back in. There we go. Let's bring her back in. Oh, there you
Sorry,
go.
it dropped me. Yes. Yeah,
But
no.
I was just saying, now, the number of adults has increased, right? 1 in 4. So now it's gone from 11% to 25% in the last 3 years. And that's a significant amount.
It is.
Some point experiencing. So that's most of us have experienced some sort of anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And, could be food use, right?
A lot of that is food. A lot of it's food. I mean, there's other things, right?
There's
other stimuli.
Experiences. There's high stressful jobs.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of factors that we're taking into consideration when we're
Absolutely.
talking about these actual disorders. And we're not talking about you're feeling anxious one day. We're talking about managing anxiety.
Right. Yeah. And again, it's like, again, we talked about the therapy piece. If that's needed, absolutely take it. But there's also things that we can consider. Sometimes again, I have a high energy. So sometimes I'm like, oh, Christina, you don't need that coffee, right? Because you're already here.
Yeah.
You don't need that coffee because it's going to make you a little crazy. So don't do that. There's no need for it, right? So coffee is one thing, but when you're starting to think about the trans fats, those are things that we don't automatically realize that these things are in our foods, right? We have to not only look, we're not just saying oh, this has 100 calories. That's not the way that we want to only look at our food. We have to look at ingredients and what's in it, and do you know what this is? And I think there's some things in our food that sound like long names, but they're not crazy things. But then there are some that okay, we need to stop and say, what is this? And why do I need this in my food? I prefer to be able to read the ingredients of my food and say, I know what this is. I know what that is. It's very simple, salt, pepper, whatever, whatever. But simple ingredients, not ingredients that you're is this in a lab? That's when we have to start to question, what is that?
Absolutely. And just, yeah, and prioritizing your health.
Mm-hmm.
It's so important. Think about those behaviors that either contribute to your health and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Away from it. So some of the other things, high sugar or foods that are high in sugar, also are things that you need to avoid. For all the same of fat, that sugar, taking sugar, it will affect your mood. There is a direct correlation with the level of sugar that you take in your
Yeah.
And you made an example too about taking sugar and then have that release of cortisol, which weakens your body's natural ability to just kind of manage and respond to stress. And so you want to take those things into consideration as you cope with your anxiety. Listen, what else can we do? What else can we do? Well, exercise.
Yes. And simple as a walk.
A walk.
It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be, I was just promoting lifting weights today as a funny thing. I mean, I do believe in it, but you don't have to do that, right? Like if that's not your thing, you don't have to do that, but you need to move your body. If it's chasing after, a loved one, a kid outside, some sort of activity, vitamin D is amazing. Just get outside, enjoy the fresh air, but move your body in some way, shape, or form is key.
Staying in the house, sitting in the dark is not going to help you.
No.
Your anxiety. Therapy, of course, we talked about therapy in the very beginning. Like you are constantly dealing with anxiety, are unable to really understand it or manage it, and seek a therapist. It's important to get support from a medical professional because some of these issues they need to be managed through medication.
Right.
So, there's the food side of it, but there's also there may be time when we need to be medicated.
Correct.
For various reasons. So we don't want to downplay that and say that food is like the end all be all, because that's not always the case.
No.
But we're talking about just managing your anxiety and using food to support that. And if you are on medication, making sure you're eating foods that are not having negative effects on the actual medication itself. So you're making it less effective. So that things like the alcohol and the trans fats and all of those things are
sugar.
They could be messing with the medication that you are taking and the effect that it's having. Talked about like prioritizing sleep. So important because
for everything. Sleep is important for everything.
Oh my gosh, we do a whole thing on sleep. We'll do a whole thing on sleep at some point. Do a live on sleep and the benefits of sleep. But my goodness, if you are suffering from anxiety and you have not had a good night's rest,
it's like
you're up for a wild ride.
Yep.
So and maybe those are some things that you also need to seek medical attention if you're not getting good sleep, because that's also triggering anxiety.
Absolutely.
Could be depression, all things in one. So that's that. And I don't know, are there any questions from folks out there? We talked meditation, journaling is another good method to use to manage stress. I meditate and I journal every day. I journal a lot, even if it's like, I don't know.
You also send me videos that's like a journal.
Yes.
For the download. I'm like, okay.
Like, I feel like, so we Marco Polo, right? We're not promoting Marco Polo, but we just use that as a way to like express ourselves, and it's just between she and I. But it's a great way to like have some fun with it. It's definitely like a good laugh. And laughter is great, laugh. Right? Getting a good laugh is great for anxiety levels. And being around good people. Good Lord, if you're around a bunch of anxious people, and you're managing anxiety, it's like a circus.
Yeah. Right. You don't want the circus. You don't want to be in a circus. We're not juggling here. We're not juggling.
No. Yeah, your friends are not, your friends are great, but they're not your therapist. And, a lot of times we can hang out with people that have some similar qualities. So you just therapist, see a professional.
Therapist is good.
It's always good to check in, right? Always good. I was thinking, well, CBD, THC, well, CBD, right?
You're like, just dial that back.
Hold on.
Dial it back. CBD is the appropriate thing to promote. It's appropriate to promote that.
For adults, CBD could potentially like lower the anxiety levels and also help with sleep.
Right. So it's got the calming effect. It doesn't have the, you know, the other kind of psychosis
Yeah,
pieces that THC has.
yeah, the psychoactive effect of
Yeah.
THC. So, you know, you're getting um, the benefits without the like.
Right. You get the chill. You get the chill.
And there's some probably other herbal supplements, but we're not going to get into that today. Really
Yeah.
want to focus more on really just getting back to it. Like number one, you are dealing with anxiety, you're not alone. There
Mm-hmm.
are many people that are dealing with anxiety. We talked about the five main types of anxiety disorders. So if you're dealing with one of those, you know, definitely make sure you're seeing a therapist or seeking some support from a medical professional to help you manage. But also, be mindful of what you're putting in your mouth.
Yep. All the
Because,
time.
yeah, food is definitely going to um, provide you with the energy
Mm-hmm.
and can help you,
Or the lack of.
or the
Or the
lack,
lack
yeah,
of.
the lack of energy. Like making sure you eat those really good foods, nutrient dense foods that you know, support hormonal imbalance and will help you to combat, you know, anxiety. Because sometimes you just can't. Sometimes you're like anxious, and
Yeah.
it is what it is, right?
I was gonna say, I can be an anxious person just because I have a lot of energy, just in general, and so
Mm-hmm.
I have to manage that on my own. Again, through my food and what I eat and how I like. I have to work out because that's how I get out. I get out energy, right? And so, I think that it's important that we just figure out the right balance for ourselves and for our own bodies. And sometimes it's hard to like figure out how to navigate that, and just with what we've been doing, with with our own self evaluation, with our evaluation with clients, we talk about like what's happening in your life, what's the thing that you're going through, how can we help you find the balance. And I think that's the important piece, because sometimes it's hard to just on your own try to figure it out. Like if you haven't had the research and knowledge, sometimes you don't really know which way to go. And that's why I think talking to a professional is just really helpful.
Yeah, I agree. So, yeah, here to support you. You can, if you would like to do a strategy session with us, the link is in our bio. We'd love to talk with you more about, what you're experiencing and how, we can come up with a plan, a specific plan for you to help kind of move you in the direction that you want to go. Maybe you've gone through therapy and now you're ready to really get down to business with your
With the
yeah,
therapy.
with and the workouts and all the complementary things that really help you execute on what your therapist or the medical professional you to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're excited. We please drop us a note if you have any other questions. We thank you all for joining us, and we will see you next Thursday.
Awesome. We'll see you next Thursday. Have a good day.
Have a good day.
Bye.
Bye.